through the choke point as well. This is where things start to get very dangerous.
Big
Incredibly
kill.
dangerous, but still Forsaken performing under the pressure to get to Waves.
Oh.
The reset.
They know where he is.
Absolutely ridiculous. And one away. 4 kills for the final blow.
What a way to end
And
it.
to get to
So today we're going to take a look at perhaps the wildest team comp that has ever been played and maybe ever will be played in a grand final of a Masters tournament. Because of course, Paper Rex on the last map, the most important map of their lives to date, decided that they were going to go out on their own terms. They were going to go out doing what they do best, which is playing crazy stuff and doing wild things. Because they played, well, I don't even know what I would call this comp on Breeze here on your right. So for those of you who aren't aware, Breeze is actually the map that's kind of the most standard map in terms of comps. Really only about 7 agents really see, you know, a lot of play on this map. And they are Viper, Jet, Cypher Chamber, Sky, KO, and Sova. And I would say 99% of team comps on this map are made up of, you know, 5 of those 7 agents make up a team comp. But Paper X didn't run a single one of those agents in their team comp. They played it very, very weird indeed. I mean, not even playing Viper on Breeze is like completely unheard of. But here we go. And let's take a look and start with round number 5. And here's the thing, you know, this wasn't a complete blowout. You know, it wasn't like a 13-2. I was worried that that might happen, but you know, it wasn't. It was fairly close for most of the game. And we'll start with round number 5. Which is around the Paper X are going to win, and they're just going to stack up and go B, which is something that they did quite a lot. I think one reason, and we'll talk about this in later rounds as well, is that their comp is kind of fine for going B, but I think this A site is just a little too big for some of the agents that, you know, like Breach and Fade. I think that the A site is just a bit too big for them, to be honest. But anyways, they decide to come in towards B, and they're going to pop the Euro ult. They're going to send a Prowler down towards Elbow, as you can see, and Forsaken, obviously, with the Euro ult, is just coming straight in. The thing is, though, Artist managed to find Jing. Don't know if maybe Forsaken did see him, but didn't see that he had an op. And so Jing swings around the corner and dies there to Artist's op. But you can see here that he can see both the Cypher and the Jet. You've got a stun here. You've got an Astra Suck down towards this Cypher. You can see he's thrown one flash, which has blinded Artist as well there. He throws the other flash there. But then Shao on the Sova for FPX, he's going to ult down here with the Sova ult, and that's actually going to hit Forsaken on the first little bolt of it. And so that means he has to then use his gate crash to get out, otherwise he probably would have died to the Sova ult. So we end up in this kind of weird situation. Here they start to kind of come onto the site. Benkai joins him on the Fade, and Forsaken is going to swing around here and manage to even the score up, and we end up in a 4v4. Now, whilst this is going on, we still have Mindfreak over here on the lurk. This was very common, something that they did. And they just pause. They just wait now. As they send this gate crash out here, they destroy the Sova dot. But now they pause, right? And this creates a bit of a problem for FPX because, you know, they had lurks in rounds prior that had caught them off, right? So, you know, they know there could be lurks somewhere, and, you know, they now have no information on holes. They have no information on a site. And so this becomes a big problem all of a sudden. And so you can see FPX start to, you know, worry about where this lurk is. Are we about to, you know, see someone come all the way on through A instead? As we can see, Mindfreak is actually just back here instead. And they just kind of wait. And Shao actually ends up coming here and kind of just following the Yoru gate crashes. He can hear it now, but then we get the kill. The lurk finally pays off. Mindfreak does manage to get this kill on Angel in mid, and so that is their cue to, okay, now we'll plant, right? Now that we're in a 4v3, they get the spike down, and we end up in this situation here. Now, Shao obviously has rotated a long way away. They still have to deal with the lurk of Mindfreak. Thinking about this the whole time, Artist does just miss that shot. Stun comes in, Fade Haunt comes in as well, and Forsaken is about to pick a very good timing to come swinging out on Zipan as he's just getting out this flash, as you can see. Manages to get that kill. We end up in a 4v2. Shao comes back from mid and does trade out, but here again is the lurk from Mindfreak, and he trades Shao out as well. And then Artist eventually is just going to try and run, but Benkai picks the right time to come around the corner and manages to kill him. This is, you know, basically how they manage to make it work, going to this B site quite often, right? You know, where the stuns can make a difference, where the Astra Sucks can make a difference. The Astra Smokes are now big enough to smoke off both the archways here and this as well. So it did make more sense for me that they were going B quite often. And now let's come to round number 9, which is a weird round indeed. FPX have taken both their timeouts at this point, I think, already. And just before this round, they took a timeout. And I think what they wanted to discuss was the fact that basically FPX were, you know, grouping up, hitting a site, and then they were just kind of, you know, going there pretty much. And that's what they were doing. And so what you'll see in this round is that FPX rotates are extremely fast. As soon as they hear kind of first contact that someone is actually coming in onto the site, you know, that they all rotate extremely quickly over to the other side, ready to kind of, you know, meet the aggression from the other side. So what we're going to see here is, well, that is going to happen. FPX are going to group up and they're going to come towards B, as you will soon see. So they're going to go in, right? In they come. Astra ult comes across. They send in the Prowler. They send in the Yoru gate crash. They send in a breach ult down here as well, as you can see. And, you know, they're going to go in off the back of it. But whilst this is going on, I think that Sogetsu is just spamming in here, and that has hit Jing. And so he's actually going to die to a Viper Molly that's going to land on there as well. So you can see we got an assist from Sogetsu there as well, but Angel gets the kill with the Viper Molly. But Forsaken is already very deep, as you can see, and manages to get the kill. The thing is, though, just look at how quick these rotates are from the side of FPX, and they're already in there, right? And they're already in on the site, and they actually managed to get Forsaken there. The thing is, though, Angel's just going to overstay his welcome as he's trying to clear around the other angles, and Devi manages to get a kill back. We end up in this situation, a very weird situation, because now what's happened is this lurk that, you know, Myfreak was commonly going for has now become, you know, a gateway into A, as those rotates have come in, and all of FPX are on this B site. You know, Myfreak has walked all the way through A, and so, you know, he's telling them, oh, it's clear, so Benkai comes on the rotate, and now Devi becomes the lurk instead. It was quite an interesting little change, and Myfreak's just gonna post himself up in this corner here. Ultimately he will die. You know, this seems like a position where you would normally get a free kill, but not this time, because actually when Artist, I think it is, who comes around here, he's gonna just spot Myfreak first, I think, and manage to get the kill on him. But we end up planting the spike here, but Benkai, I think, is also about to make a little mistake, as Zipai can hear the spike being planted. Obviously this is a bit of a weird position for Zipan to be in as well, so I can understand a bit of what Benkai is thinking, but to come all the way back here, I don't know, it's a bit of an odd choice, right? Because it means that the spike is just completely unguarded. So if someone had somehow, you know, caught a timing and maybe come through here at the right time before Devi heard them coming, you know, they could have already been on the spike. It's kind of a weird situation where they all leave the spike, and it ends up with this, where Artist, as I say, is going to manage to just catch Myfreak before he can see him, and Benkai has no idea what's going on there. So Zipan gets killed. Devi does get one back, but now he's trying to, you know, jump on this ledge here to try and see the spike. I don't think I've ever seen this before. I assume you can just about see this if you come back on this ledge. But you see that Devi, he's trying to come back on the ledge as he's scoped in. Obviously, he can't hear the spike really from this far away, so he doesn't know if they're on it or not. But unfortunately, you know, in the pressure of the moment and having to come back, he falls down, which is quite an unfortunate sight there as he falls down. And ultimately, FPX can just stick the spike, as you can see just there, and they will actually manage to kill him at the end here as well. So FPX managed to win a very weird round. But now let's come to the very next round, round number 10. And this is, I think, perhaps one problem that, you know, this kind of weird comp does have, is that going A just isn't that easy, right? When you think about where do you want to put your Astra Stars, right? And when they were coming towards this A site, they would often put like one in here and maybe one there as well. But, you know, there's still angles open to certain things, and you can't really properly smoke this off without a Viper wall. You know, that's a big disadvantage. You also think about, where are you going to breach stun, right? Yeah, you can breach stun back here, but what if someone's like over here instead? And, you know, there's a lot of different things that, you know, again, with a Fade Horn, you know, how deep can you really throw that Fade Horn? Is it going to be enough to actually catch someone off without, you know, having to be in the open to throw it? You know, I think that this is where the limitations of their comp did come in, was on this A site, and we'll see a bit of that on this round, because they actually try and go for a bit more of a split play here, where I think that this is how they had to attack this A site. So they send the Yoru Gate Crash in here, as you can see, and they get Benkai tucked up into this corner, and then he's going to send in the Fatal. But you can see this Fatal doesn't really catch, you know, too much, and then the Yoru Gate Crash comes in after that. In comes the Neon Wall, which I guess they're kind of using kind of almost like a Viper Wall there across the A site, as you can see. But what happens is Artist just goes peeking into it, right, and actually does manage to find Jing just before the stun comes in as well. And then Forsaken, you know, comes out of his ultimate there, as you can see, but he just kind of gets a bit lost. A good reposition by Zipan. He managed to find him as well. Now, Benkai does manage to get this kill up into the backside of Halls here, as you can see. Skyult comes in as they open the door. And then they actually managed to find another as Mindfreak does find Zipan there peeking out. So we end up in a 3v3, a very weird 3v3. Fadehorn comes out as well, but again, the actual range of the Fadehorn isn't enough on this A site. Again, just kind of a bit of a limitation of it, so it doesn't even see Artis. Then the smoke comes up, and that starts creating question marks. You see Artis here, like, he doesn't know which way to look, right? He just literally, he has no idea where to look. It's such an odd position now that the teams are in, right? No one knows where anyone is. And eventually they decide to just regroup and you know, come back together. And there's going to be a very crucial fight here. And I think that this next fight is going to be Sogetsu versus Mindfreak just in the middle of mid. This fight wins the round, right? Because if Sogetsu died, right, he has his Cypher stuff on B. So he can at least tell them it's this fight right here. Sogetsu manages to win this fight. And that really, I think, is going to win them the round because, you know, they can be somewhat secure in just playing retake B. You can see that as soon as he wins that fight, you know, they feel confident and just like, okay, we can play full retake B. You know, we have the Cypher stuff there to, you know, tell us that they're there at least. You know, we can just focus on mid and A instead. And so you see Angel just start to rotate back. And then, unfortunately, they run directly into Artis, who's stuck around. And he just manages to survive here on 5 HP, it should be said. And then we end up in this scenario where Devi just has an up. So he has to save it instead. And yeah, another crazy round. But in general, I think FPX, you know, did struggle to attack this A site. I think that this is kind of where, you know, you were missing the Sova and the Viper, you know, the kind of, you know, general agents that you see on this A site, that, you know, they did miss them in this instance. Now let's come to the other side, though, the defensive side for FPX, and it started off with them winning the defensive pistol. We're here at 7-7, and this is their bonus round. As you can see, they do have one gun for Devi here, but other than that, it is a bunch of Bulldogs and Spectres instead, but they are going to manage to win this round, and they do this by starting off with some aggression. They don't have a Sentinel, right, which is, you know, not ideal defensive side breeze because, you know, there's quite a few different ways. I mean, you know, they can come in through here, they can come in through here, they can come in through here. That's 3, that's 4, 5, and 6 different places they might be able to come on if, you know, they get smoked off or something. So not having a Sentinel is not ideal really on this map when you only have, you know, 5 people to potentially deal with 6 different places they could come from. But you see they send the stun down here, they get Astrosuck, they actually smoke off the other side as well, and you can see that they can just see Xiao's foot or something because Forsaken shoots at him, and then they send the stun at him as well, and they decide to, you know, just chase him down basically. And we end up in this position where Xiao does manage to get one, but then is traded out by Forsaken there, and then he's just going to gate crash and return back. And so now FPX, you know, they're just checking, they're making sure that, you know, he has fully gone, but as we can see, he has. And we end up in this 4v4. Now this is going to be pretty interesting what happens next, because Devi is going to choose to actually rotate to B. Again, he kind of just takes a risk here, right? They could be walking up mid, someone could walk all the way up here, maybe find a free kill even on Mindfreak, right? Like, there was a lot of potential here depending on what FPX did, but they did decide to actually come to B, and so they kind of guessed right in this instance, as you will see. And so eventually what's going to happen is FPX are just going to try and silently walk up, right? They don't know what's really here. You know, that's kind of the problem. They could have used the dog maybe, but they don't want to give away that they are here. So they just contact walk in. They actually see that the Yoru is here, but so is Devi, as I said. And he manages to get that first kill there. But then again, they're still confused about where exactly these players are. You see Artis is looking at Devi instead of Forsaken. So Forsaken gets a kill, but Sogetsu comes through mid and manages to get that kill. Now, Devi is about to make a pretty big mistake, I would say, in this situation where, you know, they have a pretty good idea of where both players are. They know where the spike is. You know, the rotates are coming in. So, you know, this should be pretty winnable. All Devi has to really do here is just live on the site. But for whatever reason, he decides to peek out here, as you see, and that just makes it infinitely more difficult. I mean, if you just think, if he just waits, you know, just a second, Mindfreak probably has a free kill on Sogetsu here if Devi just, you know, kind of stays silent for a second, or Sogetsu's waiting to see where he is. You know, but unfortunately he decides to peek out. Sogetsu hits a really nice shot, and they, you know, end up in this 2v2. Now, Benkai is about to own this, though, because he sends a Prowler down here, and it hits the tripwire, okay? So it hitting the tripwire, that makes them think, okay, the Fade is over here, right? He just used a Prowler here, but actually he's managed to reposition and run as well whilst the spike was being planted. So whilst you got this commotion of the tripwire going off, the spike is being planted. So, you know, there's a lot of noises going on at this moment in time. Benkai's used that time to run and get here pretty quick, as you can see. Mindfreak actually then gets spotted and sees both players. So, you know, they know where both players are at this point as well. And it's possible that FPX at this point was still thinking, right, they're both probably towards elbow. Maybe one eventually will come back to B main, but Benkai is already there. And so he catches Zipan off guard, hits a really nice shot, gets that kill, and then Sugetsu kind of is caught obviously in a bad position in the middle of two players. So he has to try and push one, and obviously he pushes straight into Mindfreak there, who with the Spectre manages to find that kill, and PaperX take the next round. But after the early rounds, FPX began to figure out what PaperX's comp could and could not do on this defensive side. And one thing that they realized is they don't really have a lot in terms of stopping just fast pushes, right? There isn't a lot of things that they can actually do to stop a fast push. And PaperX kind of knew this as well, and they kept going for these kind of big 4 stacks where they'd get aggressive, and they just kept picking the wrong side. You know, as FPX would go A, they'd stack B, like in this instance here. But the thing is as well, particularly on this A site as well, as I said, they couldn't really attack on A that well. They also couldn't retake on A that well. Again, they just didn't have quite the tools to manage to deal with such a big site and so many different angles to deal with. So we'll see, again, they come pushing out here, but you see the FPX, they just go fast A, right? They get the Viper wall up, they send a flash in here towards mid doors, they get a smoke down, in comes the second flash, they go in very, very quick, right? And at this point, you know, when you have just been pushing out B and you see that everyone is on A instead, you're just playing for a full retake. But as I said, they don't quite have the tools necessary to make it work. So what's going to happen is we're going to send the gate crash out here. They open the door, and Forsaken actually is going to ult, which I thought would be, you know, a pretty good deal. So he's going to ult, and he TPs in, right? So he starts to see where they are. He starts pinging out that the Cypher is down here, right? He starts pinging out that the Viper is over there as well. But again, they're just too far away, right? Knowing that the Viper is here, that doesn't really, you know, give you much because there's nothing they can really do about that in any way. But what happens is they send a Prowler out here, and they see that Artis is by the stairs as well. But Artis manages to find Jing just before the Prowler comes and gets him. Really, really big kill there. And then Forsaken has come out of his ult over here, right? He didn't have time to quite get behind these boxes, and so, you know, he's just come out of his ult, and Forsaken has died straight away to Angel as he's done that. Then whilst that's going on, we're in a 5v3 now. They open the door, but they use the Cypher cam to see that this Astra has come around here, and so that's going to allow Shao, as you saw in Cave there. He's just going to wrap around behind the Astra. Eventually, Mindfreak here, as you see, he has no idea really that Shao is behind, and eventually they just have to kind of push in. And Mindfreak does get one, but gets traded out, and then Sugetsu finishes off the final 2 kills as well. And FPX, sorry, began to figure out some of the weaknesses of PaperX's comp. And then finally, let's come to round number 22, which was actually one of the first rounds where they decided not to just like full stack a site and play both sites instead. And you see they get rewarded for that as they have both the Neon and Yoru here just defending A main, as you can see, and they kind of catch them out here and, you know, don't let them in early, essentially. Show that they are going to fight this, and you know, that it would be a battle, and that kind of, I think, you know, scares them a bit. They send in the dog as well. The TP comes in, and the thing is as well, they caught out Artis on this Halls lurk as well, and so he's got hit by a Prowler, and you see that therefore Benkai throws this little Fade Haunt in there. It spots him out, and they just spam the door, and he dies. So they end up with the first kill as well. Now, thinking that, okay, we've seen both the Neon and the Yoru, right, and we've seen that the Fade is there as well, they've stacked this site. FPX think, because this has happened on all the other rounds, oh, this site is just free, right? So Angel just comes running in and is kind of oblivious to the fact that, no, 2 people actually are still here. And so then we end up in this 5v3. But now, again, PaperX are going to get, you know, a bit concerned. Good stun comes out from Devi, and Mindfreak just checks the rest of the site, but he's a bit, you know, they don't have information, basically. Their comp doesn't have much information other than the Fade, and obviously that was on the other side of the map, so he does manage to die there, Mindfreak, to the 3 players coming in onto site. We end up in this 4v3, but then Forsaken is going to come from elbow and manage to get a really nice shot there on Zipan, 4v2, but now you're about to see some of the cleanest Vandal play you will ever see from Sugetsu to win this game, because Benkai go speaking there. They find 1, 2 as they try and trade. They end up in a 2v1 here, but look at those shots, are just so good, and that was to win VCT Masters Copenhagen. An insane ending for Sugetsu there, who obviously was the man who, you know, many wondered if he would actually be able to play this tournament, but he was. A great grand final going back and forth, you know, all the way to map 5, and then we saw perhaps the most crazy team comp of all time come out from PaperX, and well, I think it was just amazing, to be honest, that they had, you know, the balls to do it, basically. You know, the balls to say, yeah, we're playing our way, we don't care what people think, you know, we're going out the way we want. And, you know, it ended up being, you know, a fairly close game. It wasn't a blowout by any means, and I think it just goes to show that, yeah, there are still many different ways that you can play Valorant and find success. And that is, you know, just a really exciting thing. But congrats to FPX. They definitely deserved it. They played extremely well, particularly on Bind and Fracture, the two maps that PaperX everyone thought were easy wins for PaperX. They actually destroyed them on those maps. So you know, they definitely did deserve it, FPX, and they are the VCT Masters Copenhagen champions.